And good evening. This look at the news brought to you by Dr. Michael Bratland. He is the guy behind Chris Dental. He's the mad genius, if you will, that decided we'll get people's teeth clean and we will accept anybody. And we'll see them today if they call today. What an evil genius. What a madman. What is with that doctor? All right, I'm Bill London, host of the Wake Up Call that you'll hear 6 a.m. to 9, Monday through Friday mornings on 1120 and 93.7 FM KPNW, and streaming worldwide on the interwebs at kpnw.com. Did I say that evil genius Dr. Michael Bratland brings you to look at the news? He's evil. All right, here's a look at the stories we're following. Well, the national media is watching Oregon's 5th congressional district race. Today, The Hill, which is probably one of the leading websites for following what's going on Capitol Hill, they ran the headline today, Democrats look to avert another embarrassment in the Oregon House race. Yeah, they actually said embarrassed. I guess Democrats are embarrassed because, well, they gerrymandered that particular House district, setting it up in such a way that they knew there was no way they could lose, and then they did. Anyway, that's how The Hill described the House Democrats' national campaign arm throwing its weight behind Representative Janelle Bynum. Now, she's a state representative and, go figure, a Democrat. They're already supporting her. They're giving her money. And it has really irritated her Democratic rival in the primary, Jamie McLeod Skinner. Now, she was the Democratic nominee who lost to Republican Representative Lori Chavez DeRaymer in 2024. The article quotes an Oregon Democratic operative saying, I think all Democrats in the state and really in the country, if they're paying attention, understand that a Democratic majority in the House runs through Oregon. And I guarantee you this will be an ugly primary between Jamie McLeod Skinner and Representative Janelle Bynum. McLeod Skinner is, if you've read or seen some of the things that have been said about her and noted about her in the past, she seems to be kind of the vindictive sort. And this could be a really ugly, expensive, and destructive primary because now Jamie McLeod Skinner is very angry at the House Democratic group that's behind Bynum. Wait and see. This could be the most fun actual primary race in the entire state all year. So Oregon, if you recall, made the brilliant move to absolutely do away with bar exam qualifications for lawyers. Starting in May of this year, graduates from an approved ABA-accredited law school can instead get what they call a supervised practice portfolio examination, which is kind of like a short internship. Now, if you're kind of skeptical about that idea, well, guess what? Other states are thinking about embracing it. Nevada, Utah, South Dakota, and Minnesota. And then Washington State has already approved it. Oh, look at us being a leader in, well, making sure that there's mediocre lawyers. So in Oregon, in the Eugene area, and these are two stories that kind of lead to the same point. The Bethel School District is bleeding money. And so its school board decided this week that the way that they were going to deal with the fact that they don't have enough money to cover things like, well, salaries and the like, they've decided to close an entire elementary school next year. That, or the year after next, that will be Clear Lake Elementary School. And along with that, they're also digging into reserve money. They're also thinking about making classes larger and the like because, well, things have gotten too expensive when you figure salaries and also PERS, Public Employees Retirement System, for those of you who live out of state and don't know what PERS is. So this has a number of course, families concerned because they have kids that go to Clear Lake Elementary School and they want to know where are they going to go in the future. To that end, tonight there is going to be a community engagement session. I always love when they say engagement. That'll be from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. at Willamette High School, which is in the Bethel district, and families who are going to be affected by it can go and ask questions and comment, and, probably there's going to be a little bit of gnashing of teeth and rending of sackcloth. Now, let's compare that with another school district in the community of Silverton. And that is, in that district, the superintendent of the Silver Falls School District in Silverton has resigned just 2 days after budget officials there said the district is in danger of completely running out of money to pay its employees by the end of June. Superintendent Scott Drew last week resigned, and the upheaval comes as the district's finance officials have floated doing something that is a very, shall we say, lightly used program in Oregon that would allow a public agency, which would be a school in this case, to borrow money against future revenues that could be repaid in the short term with interest. Kim Dowd is the district's interim finance director. That should give you an idea. When the superintendent leaves and you have an interim finance director, probably things are not so good in River City. She told school board members that by taking one of these rarely ever used loan programs, that it would allow Silver Falls to cover its payroll costs without having to resort to cutting school days out of the school year and laying off employees. And more districts are likely expected to find themselves in a similar predicament and choose to access the short-term loan option known as a tax anticipation note. So before his resignation, Drew, and we give him credit for this, laid out why that district is essentially so far looking at an $825,000 shortfall. Salary, staff, and benefit costs all came in above projections after the district settled on a contract with its teachers union last year, just before they were ready to go on strike. And what do you think they were striking over? Yeah, they wanted more money. Substitute teacher costs also are higher than forecast. Now you may be asking, why are teachers taking off so much time? It has to do with Oregon's new paid leave program. So while they're on leave, the salaries are covered by the state program, but the district is still responsible for the cost of benefits. And the district still has to pay for substitute teachers to come in and substitute teach. Now, not to be, unfair here, the teachers union has chimed in and they claim it's not their fault, and they simply blame the district and the superintendent for the shortfall, saying that they mismanaged the money. And how did they do that? Could it be by the big fat raises that all the teachers got? By the way, and I'm going to throw another aside to this. So earlier late last week, or early this week, I think it may have been over the weekend, every single salary in the Portland Public School District was published. Now, that's public information. And it went to show where the problem is. Here in Oregon, you always hear this mantra: teachers are underpaid and overworked. Now, I will admit, when you look at all the salaries for the Portland Public School District, yeah, the highest paid people are folks like the superintendent, the superintendent, principals. And then you consider that kindergarten teachers in the Portland Public School District, and this is documented, make $115,000 a year to teach kindergarten. Essentially, this is somebody who provides a little teeny bit of education and a whole lot of free daycare, makes $115,000 a year. So, Oregon has a housing agency, and what they do is they provide money to shelters across Oregon who try to find beds for the homeless. Oregon's housing agency is spending an average of $1,597 per bed per month to support daily operations across 55 homeless shelters in Oregon. Documents from the Oregon Housing and Community Services shows that 55 shelters spent their portion of a $24 million pot lawmakers allocated to OHCS last year in 2023 at the beginning of the year to fund shelter operations statewide. This year, they're getting a $65 million kitty for the same purpose. Now, that fund so far hasn't been distributed, and a couple of days before, Oregon Governor Tina Kotek said she's going to work with OHCS to figure out how the funding formulas are going to work for this latest pot of operational funding. So the breakdown of the funding for the $24 million shows a pretty wide variation in how much each of these shelters is getting in money from the state to cover a bed per month. The costs have ranged all over from $75 per bed per month to, hold your breath, a little over $7,000 per bed per month. Now, OHCS said a portion of the cost variations can be attributed because some of these shelters have variable funding sources. Some of them have grants that they get from the feds. Some are foundational grants. Some of the funding comes from sources like city taxes or county taxes. So the money is kind of spread around going into these places. $7,000 a bed, and hypothetically, they could be getting even more money that they're spending on that bed. Another thing that's kind of interesting is that OHCS said when they distributed the funds for that $24 million, none of that money was performance-based, which means that, yeah, we're giving you the money, but, you don't have to do anything but spend it. A data analysis of the executed contract shows the highest cost per bed per month is for a hotel voucher program in Jackson County, Oregon. And it's run through a nonprofit called Access. The cost per bed per month for that operation, $7,135. Well, are they five-star hotels? Do they even have a five-star hotel in Jackson County? $7,135 for a single bed for a month? Now, Access, defending itself, said these people have dignity. They deserve to have a lock on their door. I'm not kidding. Other hotel voucher programs are also costing the state significantly higher than the average cost per bed. Youth shelter programs, they say, across the state are also on the higher end of the spectrum when it comes to cost per bed. Makes sense when you've got kids in there. Security, probably food, different things. The record shows staffing across all of these types of shelters is by far one of the biggest costs to the state. I want a job with Access. For $7,135 a month, you could rent several apartments for that much a month. And finally, from the City of Roses, Portland, Oregon, also known as Mordor. The Portland Police Bureau is poised to create a crowd control unit whose members would get a 6% pay raise to respond to protests and what the city calls public order events. That's a nice way of saying freaking riot. The unit would replace the Portland Police Bureau's former Rapid Response Team. Now, here's a little history on the Rapid Response Team. 50 members, all 50 members actually, resigned from that team en masse in June of 2021 after one of its members, Officer Corey Budworth, was indicted on a fourth-degree assault charge after being accused of striking one of the protesters/rioters' head with his baton in August of 2020 when Portland was dealing with nightly riots, windows being broken, arson, and fires. And, of course, that was under the orders of current DA Mike Schmidt. Now, while Schmidt prosecuted Budworth and also tried and failed to indict other police officers during the nightly Portland riots, he was also refusing in almost all cases to charge any of the actual rioters. And when they were arrested, they were all what they call no-filed, or just simply released. Budworth saw the charge get released or dismissed in 2023, and the city paid the protester $50,000 and $11,000 in attorney's fees. So Mayor Ted Wheeler's office has approached the Portland Police Association to discuss creating this new team to respond to protests that now the city believes will unfold during the U.S. presidential election season. They want the team to be 40 officers strong, have several sergeants, all of whom would also receive at least 90 hours of what they say is specialized training to respond to public order events. And right now, no one has confirmed or even knows what that training would be. Probably, all right, raise your finger, raise your other finger, go like this. Don't burn down that building. Don't burn down that building. Don't burn down that building. Hands down. Repeat. Don't burn down that building. The Portland City Council is going to have a vote soon on whether to authorize the special public order event team, or as I'm going to call them, the enabling team. Oh, I have another story here. Because, you know, Sweet 16, March Madness, and all of that. Well, here's a top 10 bracket that Oregon, I'm sure, is proud to say they're near the top of. And that is, Oregon is number 4. As you go about putting your taxes together, you'll probably be less happy to know that Oregon is now the 4th highest state in the union for income taxes, led only by the hell that's California, along with Hawaii. They're out in the middle of the ocean. You do what you got to do. And also New Jersey, that according to the Tax Foundation that tracks taxation here in the U.S. It's also compounded by the fact that Oregon has fairly high property taxes. And when you combine that with the income tax, Oregon overall is nearly at the top of the most taxed states by per capita income. We're number 4. We're number 4. Come on, Oregon, try harder. You can do it. And don't worry, if you're thinking, I want Oregon to be number 1. In 11 months, there'll be another legislative session. They'll get us there. All right, this look at the news brought to you by Dr. Michael Bratland, the evil genius. He has lasers. All right, Rick, get real.